Hello and welcome to Starting Small. Today I'm joined by Maggie Gavigan Smith of Mignonne Gavigan. Maggie, thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This is quite an honor.
Of course. Well, I'd like to start out with your upbringing. Where did you grow up and what would you say your childhood was like?
Um, Sorry if I'm sitting here in a hotel in a trunk show in Richmond, so the air conditioning just came on. So sorry if it's a little loud.
Oh no, I can't even hear it. No worries.
Okay, great. All right. I'm actually I was born in DC. Both my parents went to Georgetown and I was born there. And then we moved to Charlotte, North Carolina when I was 2. And I had an older brother at that point, me. And then my parents had 2 more kids, so I have 3 brothers total. Grew up in Charlotte. Went to one school through 12th grade, and then left there and I went to Georgia for 2 years, and then I transferred to UNC. And I was very interested in art. And so, but in speaking with my parents, kind of where should I go? Should I go to RISD? Should I go to, and we kind of all decided together that getting a liberal arts education would be great for, just a foundation,
Mm,
and then to specialize into things afterwards. So I ended up, because I transferred, I lost a few hours, and I was living in Paris, doing a semester in Paris with 2 of my girlfriends from UNC, to finish my French credits.
mm.
And I was learning political science and French, was, difficult. And
Yeah.
then I called my mom after I finished the semester, and I was kind of like, so what do I do now? And she said, well, what do you love? And I said, fashion. So she said, okay, well, there's a Parsons. Why don't you take your, I had gotten into a great program. Georgia has a great graphic design program. So I had done a lot of work, paintings, drawings, and was able to submit that to the Parsons in Paris. And they accepted me right away, and I was able to enroll and halfway through the year. And so then I started my fashion design program at Parsons in Paris, which was
Mm,
one of the coolest things. Everybody should try and do it, just because instead of going out to sketch, a lovely landscape, you go to the Paris Opera House and sketch the, staircase,
yeah.
or it's just like the most magical things to sketch. So anyway, finished that semester at Parsons. My 2 other girlfriends and we all lived with a French family. So we really did. I mean, you learn French, and you start to think it, you start to dream it.
Mm,
And then we moved back to New York after that. And so I completed my fashion design program at Parsons in New York City, and I worked for 12 years for other brands as a designer for other brands,
mm.
before launching Mignonne Gavigan in
Wow.
2014.
Incredible. I'm curious where this journey and avenue kind of started. Like what sparked your interest in design? Anyone in your family, what led up to that and then kind of studying that as well?
Sure. So my mom is very creative. My grandmother, her mother was very creative. Um, my grandmother would take away apart watches and put them together into beautiful little medallions that she'd hang on the end of at the end of chains.
Hmm.
And then my mother has the most beautiful handwriting. It could be like a font or something. And I
Mm,
just remember, even as she was doodling, as she's talking on the phone when I was little, the pictures that she create, or just like out silhouettes of flowers or whatever, were just beautiful. And I think both of my parents encouraged me to, art was something that I was always interested in. I would go down to our basement and create just worlds out of paper. So paper flowers or paper, I'd create like my mom's caravan of 4 kids, and I'd create like
mm.
the kids chair, the car seat out of
Yeah.
paper. Everything was made out of paper. Or I'd go into my dad's closet and steal a pair of his old jeans because I loved the wash, and then I'd cut them up and staple them back together so they fit me. So they had like the nice wash on the thigh area, and they had the boot cut, down at the end.
Yeah.
And I went to at my school that I had attended had encouraged me to go to North Carolina School of the Arts during middle school, which has a fantastic art program, visual art program,
Mm.
painting and drawing.
Yeah.
And I get there, and the school that I was attending was pre-square and, dress code stuff. So I show up to this art school, and they're like, "Oh, the ballet school's down the road, right down there." And I was like, "No, no, no. I mean, just because I don't have like black eyeliner around my eyes and like wearing, huge a hole, pants with like holes in them and stuff, doesn't mean I'm not in the right spot."
Yeah.
So I ended up, my mom actually took me to Goodwill, and we went and found some like old kind of grandpa pants and some like cool button down polo shirts that I ended up, she unfortunately was letting me borrow her like alligator belt, and we left it there. So somebody got a really good
Wow.
deal on a sweet alligator belt. But I think it's just always been it like pours out of me, to be honest.
Mhm.
My I think my kindergarten teacher, my first grade teacher were saying that they were excited to have me operate on them at one point when I become a plastic surgeon. I guess because I was so precise in my
Yeah.
drawing, my cutting out of shapes and staying in the lines. And so I definitely always wanted to do something in the creative art field. And
Mhm.
my parents were very supportive. But they also said, which obviously I've had jobs always, and they were just like, well, figure out what you can do, but you can also support yourself. So
Yeah.
out of the gates, I couldn't just go be a painter or something, because the canvases cost money, the paint costs money, the paint brushes, like the workspace, um and so also following my passion of fashion and
Mm.
artistry led to where I am today, really.
Yeah. Incredible. Kind of going back to where we were talking earlier is your schooling. I would love to talk about when you graduated. What kind of job path and career path did you take before launching Mignonne Gavigan? You mentioned some other jobs in fashion. What did that
Yes.
look like? What were some of those positions, etc.?
Sure. And I would encourage anybody who's listening to this to feel free to reach out to me, because
Mhm.
and however I can help you, I will. Because I felt like it was so hard to find that next job, or like,
Mm.
how do I even find people? How do I get there? So I went to Parsons in Paris, and then transferred to Parsons in New York City, lived with a crew of chicks, and we, there were like 6 girls at one point living in an apartment in Chelsea because it's so expensive.
Mhm.
We were sharing rent. And so I started working at Parsons in New York City, and not working, going to school there. So I was going to school there full time. I had an internship at Marc Jacobs working in his sample room. And then I also was working at Asprey as a PR assistant, so that I could pay my rent and eat fairly. And so, so that job led to so that school led to this person. He came in, and he had started this company called Form, which was the coolest thing. We were hanging out with like the crew that was designing for Helmet Lang, and then the crew that was designing for um, just all these cool brands
Mm.
that in New York City, everybody wore black. I mean, it was when we
Yeah.
would hang out together, it was just like the coolest thing. Kelly Catrone did our PR. She was scary, but cool. And so it was it was everything I thought New York fashion was.
Mhm.
Um, and then after 3 years of working there, doing huge runway shows, um, and making beautiful clothing, it was truly and I say this about all of the companies I worked for, big and small. This was a small startup, and so
Mm.
I needed to go to a big one after that, because I needed insurance, health
Yeah.
insurance. I needed dental insurance. I had cavities at that point, and I needed to know that my paycheck was actually going to come through, so I could pay my rent and so I could eat.
Yeah.
And so they were each, I feel like, huge learning experiences. I felt like it was almost like getting a business degree at all these other jobs. So the 12 years I worked I was an apparel designer for 3 years. Then I was a handbag designer. And then I was a footwear designer for a long time.
Wow.
And I worked at big companies, small companies, and I was able to learn from each of them really important business advice. One being so I worked for Rachel Roy, her footwear company, and it was owned by Nine West. And, the president would come and sit in our design reviews. And
Mm,
the first, probably my first design review when I was there, I had designed these intricate, boots and, these things with lots of details and
mhm.
things on them. And he's like, Mignonne, scale it back. He's like, Jessica Simpson has a huge footwear business. And do you know why? He's like, there is a peep toe, patent leather, nude pump that's a stiletto platform that is literally carrying her business. So
Mm,
what does that look like for this brand? What are our simple flats? What's that Tory Burch flat look like for us? What does that rag and bone booty look like for us? What is that? Creating those, like, he equated it to a layered cake. So like the largest layers on the bottom, that's
yeah.
your core super simple styles. That's what is going to pay for your even cooler and even cooler pieces up above that elevate your
Mm,
brand. So that was very interesting. And then I worked for Leffler Randall at their company, and Jesse and Brian have just really created something. She's got such a great sense of style and so true to herself and what she likes, and I think that is just exudes in their branding and their imagery. And so that was another really cool learning experience. And at all these companies, I
yeah.
was sent to the factories and then sent on inspiration trips. So
Mm,
sent to Hong Kong, and then we'd go to Shanghai, or we'd go shop Hong Kong, and we'd go, and the shoe factories in China are about an hour and a half, 2 hours outside of Hong Kong. So, but
mm,
at least we'd have a day on either side to kind of see what was happening in the stores there. What was, it's just, I love Hong Kong. They're just like the coolest, most interesting, new, fresh things to look at.
yeah.
Uh, Other places we made shoes was Brazil. So that was cool. When I was also a shoe designer for Nine West, we'd also go to leather fairs in Bologna, Italy. So we'd stay in Florence. The trains, it's pretty quick. And
Mhm.
so we'd shop Florence. And I remember Golden Goose hadn't arrived on the scene yet. And so, but they were there. I mean, they're Italian. They had been
Yeah.
in Italy forever before the rest of the world found them. And then, there was also a Paris fabric market that we would attend also. So then we'd shop Paris, and then maybe we'd go to Copenhagen, or we'd go to Berlin, or we go to, just like a couple day trips, or Antwerp or something cool,
Yep.
Istanbul. So, having, it was literally like, it fueled my soul,
Yeah.
going to these other places and seeing their flea markets, and seeing just new ways of interpreting fashion or artistry, or going and seeing what maybe textiles were inherent in these places that I wouldn't have seen otherwise. Or, what does the architecture look like? What does the landscape look like? What are those color stories?
Mm,
Um, did I
wow.
answer your question?
No, that's, I mean, you covered it perfect. And I mean, like the journey that you've had is primed kind of what you're doing so well and like set you up for kind of the
Yeah,
launch of Mignon Gavigan. I
yeah,
would love to hear what
sure.
eventually started you or interest you into starting Mignon Gavigan in 2014, your own brand now.
So, back in 2007, I was draping a runway dress, and I had ripped up a vintage gown, and I was draping on a mannequin and kind of getting idea of beadwork on the mannequin. And there was a piece on the floor. And at this point, I just wore black every day, all day. My closet was just all black.
Mm,
Which is funny because my personality and everything MG is color,
yeah.
so that came out later. I had to, you find yourself, it's a journey. Um, and so, yeah, so I picked up this piece on the floor, tied it around my neck, and with a safety pin, raw edge. It was a scarf, and it had like, um, it had pearls on it, it had beading on it, it had embroidered bugle beads that were silver. There's some metallic sequins on there. There's some silver sequins. It was on a black crinkled chiffon. Walked home through Soho into Nulita, and literally 3 different people stopped me and were like, where can I buy that? And I was like, hold up. I need help paying my rent. So, I was like, give me your phone number, I'll have it to you in about a month. So I was at that point, I was working with apparel companies. I was working with I was working for an apparel company, but the factories were used to making evening gowns, not scarf necklaces.
Yeah.
So no in jewelry or accessories. And so but luckily I had started working with them, and so off on the side I was able to later start making these scarf necklaces for people just here and there doing trunk shows, and they kind of caught wind and caught fire over the next few years. And as like a person who had never started a company, and I live in the creative space, so
Mm.
running the business operations, the finances, that wasn't my forte. So
Yeah.
as I started, as I was gaining my experience and my education while working, learning about branding, learning about visuals, learning how to build a website, build a line sheet, I was still working for other people. So I do feel like I told you before, it was almost like getting a business degree,
Yeah.
working for these other companies, seeing what worked, seeing what didn't work, seeing how they were successful, seeing what, maybe they could have done better to be more successful.
Mm.
So then in 2014, it got to a point really where the demand was there.
Mm.
And so, because as a creative person, you're kind of like, are they going to like it? Is it going to work out? Is it going to be successful? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to you don't have to buy a shirt. Don't worry. You don't have to buy it, kind of like stuff like that.
Yeah.
So so I started the first one. One of my best friends, she had worked for Tory Burch in Tory's kitchen in New York City. And Chris Birch had said to her, look, nobody knows who you are. Nobody knows what a tunic is. Nobody, you got to get on the road. You got to take it on the road. So my girlfriend and I, we took that advice, and she and I did 30 trunk shows in 52 weeks around the United States.
Wow.
So yeah, literally, luckily, jewelry is pretty easy to pack up. And at that point we were just, a scarf necklace company. So the first year we just launched some scarf necklaces. I had this beautiful fringe one, the Le Marcel. I have this Aztec one, and then the beaded pearl one, which was super cool because it reaches all age groups. Coming from the South too, is a new way to wear pearls.
Mm.
So we literally, and in New York City, when you come from the South, we all kind of gravitate to each other and become friends. And so I just reached out to friends of friends in all these cities we wanted to hit,
Mm.
and we come do a trunk show at somebody's home. And then we would reach out to whatever store was there that we wanted to be in. And so we were starting to gain our wholesale business too. We're omni-channel, which means
Yeah.
we DTC is very important, direct to consumer, as well as wholesale.
Certainly.
So the whole thing needs to flow for us. It doesn't make sense for us to just be one or the other.
Yeah.
So after that first year, we were cash flow positive. Another part of that was exhausting, but it was so rewarding. It was so fun. And my friend, she is fantastic. Her name's Kinsey Finnebresk, and I just moved to Charlotte actually, which is fun. She's moving there too. Anyway,
Awesome.
worlds colliding back again. Well, in Richmond right now too, who hosted us last night. That's one of her best friends, who now is one of my super close friends, Carter. She owns a company called CCH Collection. But it just becomes, it's like it's meeting these people, touching them. They now know me, at these trunk shows, instead of, Kinsey really taught me how to sell. So instead
Mm.
of, being like, ooh, if you don't like it, it's cool. Because Mignonne Gavigan's a very interesting and unique and different, I would say, vision of jewelry because of its artistry and the embroidery work. And it's not just metal,
Yeah.
hardware. So, touching these people and, putting something on them and being like, no, this is going to look great on you. Turn around. Here's the mirror. And then they're like, oh, kind of showing them a new way to wear jewelry was interesting and fun. And then they could see, you don't have to just wear it with like a black dress or a gray dress, wear it with
Yeah.
whatever you're wearing, what's your normal daily, how do I get dressed and what am I wearing? And like helping people to see that and be comfortable with it and like to have fun.
Yeah.
Um, so that was a fantastic way. Oh, so then we'd come back to New York And then we worked out of my apartment down in Tribeca for about 3 years until it got to a point where we just couldn't keep doing that. We just explode. We were exploding
Yeah.
out of the couple rooms that we had taken over. And sitting on the floor, laying out each, printing out all the receipts, all the orders, putting the necklaces on the order, packing the orders, making sure they're in their beautiful packaging, and then, shipping them out. We made best friends with the FedEx lady. She loved my cat too. And so they were best friends. The UPS guy, Cleveland, he and I were like besties. So it ends up, it takes a village,
Yeah.
to get there. But those in the very beginning, it's, and I would love to talk more about how the mindset, you
Mm,
kind of wake up and you're kind of like, am I doing this? Is this happening?
mm,
Are we gaining success? Are we moving forward? Are we, how do we do to last now? We're in our 9th year. We'll be 10 years next year, which is amazing.
awesome.
We have a Tuesday morning call with our whole team meeting. We go over how we're doing to last week, last year comparatively. How are we to our goal for this year, our Q1 goal, our Q2 goal. So constantly measuring is really helpful in terms of
Mm,
if we need a pivot, if we need to try something new, and so, that's a big difference from when we started. We had no kind of analytics around what was happening.
certainly.
Uh, anyway, okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
No, no,
Did I?
that's awesome. I think like looking back at those early dates, the trunk shows that's like an amazing way. I have founders who are like in food and beverage, and they used to do farmers markets. It's an amazing way to get direct feedback, find your customer, find what kind of like innovations you need to make, and then
For
expand
sure,
from there.
for
I'd love to
sure.
hear what is like the percentage of wholesale to D2C today? What do you say majority is online, or what does that look
Yeah.
like for you?
It's pretty healthy. It's 65-35.
Mhm.
Um, COVID, we were about 70% DTC. But what's been great now is there's this resurgence for us. Right now, a cost of acquisition is so expensive.
Mhm.
So there has been this influx of getting back in front of these people, touching them again, seeing, people want to shop, but they want to shop in person.
Yeah.
They want to see it, they want to touch it, they want to feel it, they want to go out and be involved in some kind of shopping experience.
Mhm.
Um, and in terms of what our percentage was and is, it's been pretty much the same the whole time,
Mhm.
which has been healthy for our brand and our company to maintain where we are and what we're doing. Our first department store, which was very important to me. So I'm a consumer. I love to shop. I love a
Yeah.
department store. Um, and my mom was a Pan Am stewardess, and she would arrive in London and they'd put them up at whatever beautiful hotel. And then she tells me stories of like walking into Harrods. And, at that point they sold like animals and cars and things like that.
Wow.
But, you know, uh, so Bergdorf's Neiman Marcus, my favorite store by far. And so that was kind of just this goal and this
Mm.
kind of, can we get there? And so that first year we did the trunk show story. And then after we kind of had some of these wholesalers, we we then needed somebody who was going to, be with us full time,
Mm.
who had been in sales. So we had a salesperson join us who had about 10 years of experience. She was fantastic. And mission number one was, can we create a relationship with the Marcus and get
Mm.
in there and have that as our foundation in wholesale.
Yeah.
Um, and so we were able to, and there was a buyer switch over, a younger buyer came in and she was like, this is the hot brand. She brought us in and we've had the most fantastic relationship with them ever since.
Mm.
Constantly in communication, constantly in touch. What do you need? How do we, what are you seeing? How can we help you? Like, here's what we're seeing. Here's our business that's happening. So it's a very symbiotic relationship.
Yeah.
And, it takes time, and it also takes pivoting. What do you need? How, and the buyer and I are very close, and so she'll come in and be like, Mignon, what is this? Where's the blah blah blah? I need more of this, like, but or this is fantastic. This is crushing it, or
Yeah.
um, so, and that, I think something else too is learning how to take constructive criticism, and take it in a way that I love to hear everybody's opinion. I think that's another thing about trunk shows and constantly
Yeah.
doing just in-person shopping experiences is I love to hear the customer feedback. I want to hear, oh, this doesn't really fit right. This is too long. This is too short.
Mhm.
Also, our customer isn't just one size. So what, if we do a chain necklace, what size does it need to be? If we do bracelets, what do they look like? What size are they? Um, you know, or I'd love to see more pink or more blue or more, so
Yeah.
anyway.
It's incredible. I would love to hear kind of from that. Whenever you get like customer feedback or would do these trunk shows or even today, when you want to do a new piece, do you listen to the customer? Do they give recommendations? How do you do innovation within the jewelry, um, within Mignonne Gavigan,
Great
new
question.
pieces?
So, the way when I felt comfortable starting this company, because I was bringing a new way of looking at jewelry to the industry. When I
Mhm.
was at Parsons, one of our teachers said to us, if you ever want to start your own company, your own brand, it's got to be a unique idea. Like, what sets you apart? Why are you different? Otherwise, there's just thousands of brands out there that you can get lost in. And
Yeah.
so this idea of a scarf necklace and taking this intricate, so Mumbai, India is where all the embroidery comes from. And it's this long line of, it's passed down through generations. It was men, um, but it's this craft that's passed down through generations, and it's the amount of work that goes into either the scarf necklaces, or now we've our 80% of our business is earrings. So
Mhm.
the artistry that goes into the earrings, each one is literally a little sculpture. I mean, it takes about a week to make a scarf necklace. There's so much handwork that goes into it.
Yeah.
So, the earrings, to make both earrings exactly the same, that takes precision and just years and years of expertise and experience.
Yeah.
Um, and so I felt comfortable launching this brand because there's nothing else like it in the industry. So I think that's continued to set us apart,
Yeah.
and to continue to become, just recreate ourselves every season. Now, like I was talking about before, traveling all these places, I was able to see also um, new ideas, new things, new techniques. And so I dive in each collection to some place in the world, Uzbekistan, Guatemala, some place in the world that's doing interesting things. And, maybe it sparks, like during COVID, we did a trunk show in Midland, Texas, and then I drove
Mm.
down the Big Bend and ended up in Marfa. And when I was in Marfa, I went into the store and I saw these incredible tunics with these embroidered little either birds or trees or whatever on it, kind of in a linear design. And I was,
Mm.
where did this come from? It's called a huipil, and that comes from Guatemala. There's this lake, and there's like 20 different cities, towns around this lake. They all speak different languages, and they all wear these tunics that the embroidery is different in each one.
Mm.
Um, they're like their own little town. They speak different dialects of their language. So it's just, opening your eyes to everything that's out there, and then translating it in Mignonne Gavigan way, so that other people can gain an understanding of something far away and outside of themselves, to maybe spark an interest to maybe go there and see it, or
Yeah.
at least there's constantly new inspiration coming from our brand to the jewelry market,
Mm.
where I never want to look at another jewelry brand and say, oh, take inspiration from there. I want, like, those people are now also all my friends.
Yeah.
So all of us in the jewelry space, COVID was fantastic because we all leaned on each other. We all became friends. We all helped each other out if we needed, we even like shared employees if we needed help paying them.
Mm.
Um, we all like ask each other questions. We, if somebody's worked for somebody and then they switch to the next person, like getting a recommendation from them.
Mm.
It's been pretty wonderful because where I started back at that first company that was a collective and everybody wore black, and it was, it was kind of like you walk in and you're kind of scared. Is somebody gonna yell at me? Like, did I
Yeah.
like a minute late or whatever? It's come a long way since then.
Mm.
And having worked at so many other companies, I was able to see that I want to build a company where people build it on the premise of kindness. You
Mm.
know, if you mess up, don't worry about it. I mean, please don't do it again. But
Yeah.
we'll all fix it. We'll all come together. We'll all make this work. But when you walk in, I want you to feel. I think if you feel supported in that way, you will be a much better, the way that you go about your daily tasks, or the way that you think about coming to work, you'll just be much more successful for all of us
Yeah.
if there's this inherent kindness between everybody that you're working with. We sit in New York. Our office is an open platform,
Mm.
so everybody's, we do have 3 different conference rooms that you can go into and have a serious conversation if you need.
Mm.
But also it's, bouncing ideas off of people is just really important.
Yeah.
Somebody's working on this, but oh, I could help out with that a little bit. Here's something, and so um anyway, sorry. I
I love
do
it.
I just go off on a tangent. But
It's
so in
perfect.
2014, I did feel confident enough to start this company with the scarf necklace idea. Minimalist jewelry was what was in vogue at that point. So I was kind of like,
Yeah.
hey, super different, really colorful,
Yeah.
uh, couldn't be more different from minimalist jewelry. But it took off, and it's
Awesome.
continued to grow. We have a fantastic repeat customer rate, which is, I think, I feel really good about. That's one of the things I feel most proud of, to be honest,
Yeah.
which is kind of like, if and I do think some of these people they feel so connected to the company because they've met me and we've
Mm.
talked and we've like exchanged. Oh, how do you like to wear it? What are who are you? What is this? How does this make you feel? If people tell us if they have a big presentation they need to give in the boardroom, or like walking into the law firm, the court, big day at court that day, they put on one of our scarf necklaces. It gives them confidence.
Mm.
Or like walking
Certainly.
into a room and they've got our bird earrings on, they've got lots of feathers, and people are attracted to the interesting nature of the pieces. And then then there's questions asked. Where do you get that? What is that? What's that made out of? And then a conversation starts,
Wow.
um, which has been
Incredible.
really cool.
That's awesome. I love all the learnings you have from like such a broad, extensive journey. I would love to hear. This is how I conclude each episode. If you can
Sure.
share one piece of advice with an aspiring entrepreneur, something you've learned along your way, what would that be?
So, great question.
Mhm.
I would say the first thing is lead with kindness, like we talked about.
Mhm.
Treat people the way you want to be treated. But also don't give up. This is a slow roll.
Yeah.
This takes a long time. When you keep waking up in the morning, just keep going, keep following your passion, keep building it. I would say one other thing: surround yourself. My one of my great friends in New York City, Lydia Finette, she just wrote her second book. It's called Claim Your Confidence. She
Mhm.
said this to me 2 nights ago and she said, surround yourself with people who are also striving to be their best self,
Mm.
striving to work hard, striving to get to their next place. Our team is built up with people who are constantly coming in and pushing themselves. I'm always trying to meet people, and I ask to meet people and like talk to them to see, what are you doing? How are you doing this? How
Yeah.
can I be better? Because there's no set path,
Yeah.
there's no book on, I mean, sure, there are thousands of books, but your personal self, what is your road to get to the next place or achieve the most success? There's no one way to do it. And so I
Mm.
think the more you can surround yourself and lean on people
Yeah.
to of who've started other brands and are doing it, what are they finding successful,
Mm.
um, is just a great way to be.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, again, Mignon, thank you so much for joining me today. And to the listeners out there, make sure to check out Mignon Gavigan at mignonnegavigan.com.